But I was doing good things, and I wanted to do good things. I was never going to hurt anyone. I was never going to let anyone down.
Diana was 8 when her parents divorced, with her father winning a bitter battle for custody of the children.
She, throughout her whole life, was looking for a happy family. From the age of 6, when Diana's mother walked out and she stood at the gate and saw her disappear, her whole life was dedicated to finding again the happiness of the family that she lost.
So she came from a broken home, and I think perhaps there was an insecurity that a seed was sown from a young age, and that insecurity was something that flourished actually within her as she got older.
Diana was often noted for her shyness while growing up, but she did take an interest in both music and dancing, training in classical ballet.
I mean, she used to like to dance, and she was very fond of swimming. She was always up and down to the swimming pool. She danced in the main hall and played the piano. No, she never ever said what she wanted to do.
She had that element of shyness which we never broke through. She had a really lovely singing voice. We'd heard her when she didn't know we were listening, but we couldn't get her into the choir. She was too shy to take the audition. She was quite aware, I feel, that she was struggling with her schoolwork. She did try, and I think she hadn't a clue why she wasn't good. I think the underlying troubles at home in her family just affected her concentration. Her mind was somewhere else.
Diana spent most of her time reading Barbara Cartland novels and disappearing into a world of make-believe.
There are all these stories told that Diana said she was going to be a princess one day, or said she was going to marry somebody significant. I think all teenage girls have such dreams.
Diana failed all of her O-levels, but she was displaying other talents.
She'd go off on her bicycle to visit old ladies, to do their shopping for them, and she obviously had a real talent for dealing with people in that respect, and she obviously enjoyed it as well, and that was quite unusual for people of that age.
In Australia, her husband-to-be improved his polo game and basked in the glory of finally capturing a beautiful young bride. On his return at another polo match, Diana was there to watch him play just a few days before the wedding. But the strain was beginning to tell. She burst into tears and had to be led away. Her first public show of anxiety.
Twenty-year-old Diana Spencer became Princess of Wales when she married Prince Charles on July the 29th, 1981, at St Paul's Cathedral. It was widely billed as a fairy tale wedding, watched by a global audience of 750 million. After the wedding, the couple made their official residence at Kensington Palace. On November the 5th, 1981, the princess's first pregnancy was officially announced. In the private Lindo wing of St Mary's Hospital in London, on June the 21st, 1982, the princess gave birth to her and Prince Charles's first son and heir, William Arthur Philip Louis. Amidst some media criticism, she decided to take William, still a baby, on her first major tours of Australia and New Zealand, but the decision was popularly applauded. Her second son, Henry Charles Albert David, was born 2 years after William, on September the 15th, 1984. Diana wanted her sons to have wider experiences than are usual for royal children. She took them to Disney World and McDonald's, as well as AIDS clinics and shelters for the homeless. She bought them typical teenage items such as video games. Even her harshest critics agree that the princess was a devoted, imaginative and demonstrative mother. She rarely deferred to the prince or to the royal family, and was often stubborn when it came to the children. She chose their first given names, dismissed a royal family nanny, and engaged one of her own choosing, selected their schools and clothing, planned their outings and took them to school herself as often as her schedule permitted. She also negotiated her public duties around their timetables. Diana was breaking the mould when it came to motherhood in the royal family.
I recall, both William and Harry enjoying these breakouts from a royal palace.
As well as making life fun for William, Diana was keen to show William another side of life, far, far away from the royal palaces.
I remember her taking William very early in the morning, away from the glare of the cameras, to the Passage Day Centre to hand out clothing, to hand out food and so forth. And I remember, William there handing out a tea and a coffee or something, and this one guy came up, having spent the night on the street, and said, give me that, I'm not interested in you. And he knew exactly who it was. And this was quite an opening, quite an awakening for William. And Diana, I remember in the car back, said, you see, William, this is what happens. Not everybody likes us. This was part of Diana's education, wanted him to see what other people did.
He always knew that William was born first and William was next in line, and accepted it. Harry's got a very big heart. You see, Harry's like his mother. William's like his father. Because William is so stoic, he'll make a great king. Look at Harry. He'd make a fun king, but not really a good one. Living and working with the Queen was far more easy than living with Diana. With the Queen, we always knew that her life ran with routines and protocols and timetables. We knew that breakfast would be 9 o'clock, lunch would be 1 o'clock, tea would be 5 o'clock, and dinner would be 8:15. It was the same every day. It's Groundhog Day at Buckingham Palace. Everything runs smoothly. With Diana, anything could happen. No routine, no timetables, nothing. We might skip lunch, we might be shopping, we could be doing anything during the day. So life was more exciting with Diana.
Well, now, 2 questions that everybody will want to have answered. What do you say, ma'am, when you read in the papers that you are a determined, domineering woman?
I don't always read that. People very willing to tell me that. But I don't think I am. I'm a perfectionist with myself, but not necessarily with everybody else. And those stories arose a long time ago and have kept coming out again and again. But I don't think I am.
You feel hurt by them?
Well, obviously one does. You feel very wounded, and if it comes out, you think, oh, gosh, I don't want to go out and do my engagement this morning. Nobody wants to see me. Help, panic. But you've got to push yourself out and remember that some people hopefully won't believe everything they read about you, because there's far too much about me in the newspapers, far too much. It horrifies me when there's something more important, like what goes on in a hospice, or there's been a bomb or something. They'll put me on the front page.
As the watching world looked on at what appeared to be a fairy tale marriage, all was not well within the Wales's household. It was becoming evident that Princess Diana was not prepared for royal life. Her and Charles's relationship was becoming strained, and their marriage appeared to be on a slippery slope.
I think she felt isolated, and I don't think that the palace were prepared for someone who perhaps didn't have that royal training to marry into the royal family and to become a future queen. She was the Princess of Wales. She became famous overnight, and she didn't really have the tools to equip her for such immediate stardom. I don't think Charles gave Diana the guidance that she needed, and I certainly don't think the courtiers at the palace did. She was really left to sink or swim.
Well, I think Princess Diana, like the rest of the world, was caught up in the fairy tale that was her own royal relationship, and She was willing it to work, as was everyone else. I think very quickly the reality set in that she didn't have much in common with Prince Charles, and actually they were very different people with very different interests, and that's when the cracks started appearing.
I can tell you in the beginning she was a shy, naive, quiet girl who knew nothing about the world. She transformed. She had to. She had to survive. She was thrown in at the deep end and told to swim, and she learned quickly.
I know that Diana did not want to be Queen of England. I will never be Queen. She was quite determined. She wanted to get out of the marriage. So for that reason alone, she had no desire to be Queen.
She didn't want the artificialness of what she seemed would be inevitable were she to become Queen. I think she wanted to remain herself.
I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts, in people's hearts, but I don't see myself being queen of this country. I don't think many people would want me to be queen. Actually, when I say many people, I mean the establishment that I'm married into, because they've decided that I'm a non-starter.
Did you try to be faithful and honourable to your wife?
Yes. Until it became irretrievably broken down. Us both having tried.
Was she so happy that she had finally broken free of a royal prison that she couldn't help talking about it?
But I do feel, Peter, that I won their own game. Now.
Now? But it's taken 11 years of your life.
That wouldn't be easy because by now she'd spent years acting like someone else. Deep in despair, isolated, and alone in Kensington Palace, Diana still continued to play out the royal fairy tale. As she continued her story, Sedlin realized how much the double life she'd been leading had helped to bury the person she really was.
When it comes to a drama, I can only sort myself out. I can't get anybody else to sort me out.
How the parade she marched in public, with hospital visits, gallery openings, and grand foreign tours, was bitterly resented in private.
So you're on isolation, and anything anyone says just doesn't weigh at all. And they all blamed the failure of the marriage on the bulimia, and that's taken some time to get them to think differently. I said I was rejected, I didn't think I was good enough for this family, so I took it out on myself. I said I could have gone to alcohol, which would have been obvious. I could have been anorexic, which would be even more obvious. I decided to do a more discreet thing, which ultimately wasn't discreet, but I chose to hurt myself instead of hurting all of you.
I think about her laughter, I think her great sense of humour, shy Di, the woman who looked up, hid behind her fringe, who never spoke in public, and who gradually gained this incredible confidence, unfazed by this sort of worldwide popularity that she had.
She had fame, and she wanted to use it to speak out on important issues, but for all her many gifts, a silver tongue was not among them.
We cannot afford to think of HIV and AIDS as someone else's problem.
But there was someone listening to her, someone who would help change her life.
I think it was a Friday evening, and I heard a little bit of a speech that Diana had given on the radio. And she was terrible.
Peter Sedlin is a former actor who once appeared in British soaps and the movie A Bridge Too Far. Over the years, he developed a thriving business as a communications consultant and voice coach. In their first meeting, Sedlin says Diana came across as a frightened woman, shell-shocked by a bad marriage and worse, publicity. Sedlin told her giving good speeches could be a therapy of sorts and a way for a soon-to-be divorced woman to show her husband and the world that she wasn't frightened and isolated, but strong and independent.
You know, before she was tending to do speeches which were either documents written by somebody else or, I'm delighted to be here speeches. She was, those ones made her into a bimbo. She didn't want to be a bimbo. She wanted to be treated as though she got a brain, and she had.
Week after week, Diana practiced, watched her tapes, and made visible progress.
The more threatened we are, the more, what do we feel?
No, excuse me, the more changes there are, the more threatened we feel.
Right, now carry on like that, yes.
Those who become ensnared in addiction are often highly sensitive and creative people.
Sedlin told Diana she had to drop her regal mask and find the sparkle inside her. He said she could never give a good speech if she didn't know what she was passionate about.
What role did you see for yourself as Princess of Wales? Did you have an idea of the role that you might like to fulfil?
No, I was very confused by which area I should go into. Then I found myself being more and more involved with people who were rejected by society, I'd say drug addicts, alcoholism, battered this, battered that, and I found an affinity there. And I respected very much the honesty I found on that level with people I met, because in hospices, for instance, when people are dying, they're much more open and more vulnerable and much more real than other people, and I appreciated that.
She was admired for her groundbreaking charity work, in particular her work with AIDS patients and supporting the campaign for banning landmines.
Were you surprised at the political furore that developed as a result of your visit to Angola?
I saw it merely as a distraction because I'm not a political figure. I am a humanitarian figure, and always have been and always will be.
Angola had 15 million unexploded landmines just scattered in places. Young children playing football on the local village football pitch were getting blown up.
I accompanied the princess as a member of the press to Angola. She had the bit between her teeth. She seemed very determined to make a difference. She ticked us off in the press a little bit, saying that we'd focused too much on her clothes, not the issues that mattered.
You knew that you were being, in many ways, as a member of the media, being manipulated by her for her causes, but you couldn't help yourself.
Diana wasn't just showing William a role for a future king. She was showing him how to walk a political tightrope.
Ma'am, the government minister's home has said you're a loose cannon by supporting this campaign. Do you have any reaction to that?
Well, Jenny, I'm only trying to highlight a problem that's going on all around the world. That's all.
It's been said, though, that you're aligning yourself with Labour policy. Do you think that's wise?
Labour? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what.
We have really
need
to
move
keep
on.
the
Thank you.
programme going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's okay. So that was...
Oh, it really makes me burst into tears now.
Don't worry.
There was a sort of naivety about Diana that I thought was endearing. It was what drove her, what enabled her to be compassionate.
There was a cynical view that her care and compassion were photo opportunities. But I remember going to Chicago with her, to the Northwestern Hospital. We were shown all over, including the premature baby unit. I was very unwilling to allow the photographs into that unit, and so the cameras didn't go in there. There was no difference to the way that she behaved with the mothers, with the children, with the compassion that she showed and the interest and the tenderness towards the children than if the cameras had been there. She was genuinely, that sort of person.
She came back with all these stories and full of excitement and just passion for what she'd been doing. And I sort of used to sit there as quite a sort of, surprised little boy at the time, sort of taking it all in. I never realised quite how much of an impact she had. You can feel and see when she's talking and visiting that she really connects and cares about what she's doing. I applaud her for all her, her dedication and her drive in doing that. And it was, I think, that infectious enthusiasm and the energy that she had that really rubbed off on me for causes such as this.
You've also taken up the deaf.
Yes.
And you're learning the deaf and dumb sign language.
Well, I'm trying. I'm pretty hopeless at that, but I think it's important to show them that you're interested and you're not just breezing in and out, having seen them for a morning. I've got all my senses, and they haven't. They're missing one or two, and I'm learning how they adapt, or if they've been deaf and dumb since birth, how they cope, and how they deal with the outside world who don't always want to know about them, perhaps.
Deep grief.
The world mourns Princess Diana, killed last night in a car crash in Paris. Diana died along with her boyfriend in an accident that may have been caused by paparazzi chasing the car to get pictures of the couple. Good morning, I'm Mona Fletcher.
And I'm Tracy Haynes. The crash happened last night in Paris near the Eiffel Tower. It was about 5 o'clock our time and just after midnight in Paris. Police say paparazzi, the photographers who constantly tail Princess Di, chased her Mercedes in a high-speed pursuit, and this is what's left. Paramedics were able to revive Diana, but they could not keep her alive. She died from internal bleeding and cardiac arrest. She was 36 years old.
Princess Diana was in the spotlight at all times. Despite problems with so much attention, she tried to use this publicity for good, and through doing so, endeared herself to the public through her warmth and caring.
It's almost impossible to describe to a stranger or someone who's never met Princess Diana what she was really like. What I usually say is she was as beautiful inside as she was out. But to meet her was something special. She lit up a room, she stopped traffic, and when she entered into a room, everything stopped, and all eyes were on her. I've never met another human being who had that aura, who had that charisma, the same as Princess Diana.
She was not educated, but she was very clever. And she definitely had a really, I think, quite a deep, intense emotional intelligence. I think she worked people out very quickly, and she worked situations out quite quickly. So I think that sense of her, the world wanting to look at her and say, you have the perfect life, you are the perfect fairy tale princess, this is just wonderful, and actually her knowing, well, a lot of the time it's not, and actually I've got my own difficulties, and I think she did have an understanding of people's inner feelings and inner torment. I think she had quite a lot of that herself.
And she had a peculiarly intense empathy for people who were afflicted or suffering. I think it probably came from her own sense of her own suffering. And she was in some way drawn to people suffering to do something about it. But that was a deeply personal thing.
The royal family is built on history and tradition and protocol, and Diana really broke the mold. She did things differently.
She enjoyed life, she was a vibrant person. She was charming. She was the daughter of an earl. She'd been married. Well, she was just 20 years old when she got married. And her life had been very prescribed for her within the royal family. But nevertheless, she still asserted herself. And after she got used to being a princess, she became more and more her own person. And that's what people loved about her.
I want them to have an understanding of people's emotions, people's insecurities, people's distress, and people's hopes and dreams.